Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, we're talking about spring summer beauty trends, the best luxury beauty for the season, because recently I was asked to speak on the main stage at the National Women's Convention here in Montreal. I posted about it and quite a few of you asked me to talk about this here on my channel, so I thought I would talk about my presentation, my talk, and talk about the spring beauty trends. Anyway, before we go any further, let's take a second to grab our iced coffee or a hot coffee. Let's take a sip and let's get started. Everything that I'm mentioning in today's video is listed in the description box down below, so please go ahead and check out those affiliate links. So to start off, the National Women's Convention, it's a traveling convention here in Canada. They do several different cities, and they had one here in Montreal at the Palais de Congrès. That's basically the convention center downtown in the old port. And they asked me to speak about spring beauty trends and also luxury beauty products that are worth investing in. And I said, say less. I can definitely talk on stage about those two topics. So to start off with, I'm going into the Chanel Rivage palette here, the beautiful blue palette here, and I'm going to actually use a bit more of the neutrals, and I'm using this Refer 201 brush, and I'm just going to pick up this color here, this light neutral. I'm just going to pack this on the lid, and it's going to be very liberal here. I don't have to be too precise. One thing I talked about during my presentation is that when it comes to beauty trends or trends in general, they're so cyclical. Like everything that's trendy now was seen as super dated a couple of years ago, and everything that is trendy now will be dated again. And one thing, like one way we see this is with the 90s and 2000s. It's been a couple of years now that the 90s and 2000s fashion has been so popular in fashion more than beauty. I'm going into this Refer E45, and I'm going back into this color here, but I'm just going to place it in the crease, and I'm just going to carve a bit more because fashion evolves at a much quicker pace than beauty. If you and I sat down here today and decided to make a beauty product, it would take 2 years before it would hit the shelves, whereas fashion just evolves quicker. That's why we've seen the 90s and 2000s in fashion for a few years, and it's only recently that those trends are leaking into beauty as well. And this season, one of those ways that those decades are influenced in beauty is with the color blue. This makes me so happy. I love blue eyeshadow, blue eyeliner, blue makeup. I love it. I love it so much, and I think it's gorgeous. That's why I bought this palette here. Now I'm taking this Angie Hot and Flashy A505. This is excellent if you want to pick up any satin shimmer eyeshadow. I'm going to pick up this eyeshadow here, but I'm actually going to use a bit of setting spray first. I'm using the Dior Forever Backstage. I'm just going to spray the brush a tiny bit just to wet it. And I'm going to pick up this color here. And then I'm just going to place it all over the lid. And I know what you're thinking. A lot of people get scared off with blue eyeshadow or blue makeup. They're like, oh God, that sounds maybe tacky or dated. I get it. But the blue makeup looks that I'm seeing more for this season are evolved. Of course, you could go full blue eyeshadow, which I do sometimes, but you know, this is what I do for work. This may not be appropriate for everyone. One way that blue eyeshadow or blue makeup in general is trendy now is instead of using black or brown liner, using a very dark navy. Using a dark navy eyeliner is so subtle and natural. And that might sound counterintuitive because it's blue. You might think it's more jarring, but it's actually more natural than a dark color, like a dark black. I'm just using the same Sigma brush from before. I'm just picking up this color here. I'm just going to add more. It looked lighter before, but in contrast to the color I just applied here, it looks darker, and it's just helping to carve out this part of the eye. And so I highly recommend trying out some dark navy, very dark, rich blue hues, because this light blue is very pretty for eyeshadow, but it really isn't for everyone. And so maybe a dark navy might be more appropriate for you, especially because that little winged liner, the cat eye flick, is very trendy again from the 60s. But this time, instead of doing it with black, we're going to do it with a dark navy. And I have this here. This is, hold on. This is technically a liquid eyeshadow from Violette FR, and it's called Ciel de Nuit, so nighttime sky, so a very dark color. And it's actually blue. So you could use this all over the eye to create a beautiful, dark, smoky eye, but we're actually going to use it today as eyeliner. What I like to do is I like to wipe off some of the excess here. Then I take the wand and, only taking the narrow side of the applicator, I press it along the lashes, and that will act as eyeliner. To create that little flick, I'm using this Refer 34 brush. It is incredibly minuscule. It looks like it's made for calligraphy or something. And I'm just going to take some of the product here, wipe off a little bit, and I will go ahead and do a little flick. Now my eyes are hooded and uneven, and the left eye tends to be a little bit more delinquent. So I'm going to start with the left side here. And then taking the brush, I'm just going over top of the liner just to fix any bumps, just to make it a bit more straight. Taking some eye cream on the back of a Q-tip here, I'm just rolling it, and this will help clean up the wing. I personally loathe using eye makeup remover to fix under eye makeup, because if you use a makeup remover, you will in fact remove skincare that you applied earlier. So I would rather use a little bit of eye cream on a Q-tip. Now I'm going to go into this waterproof liner from Chanel. It's the number 30 Marine, and it's a darker navy as well, but it's not quite as dark. I mean, it's a little bit different than the liner here. And what I'll do is I'll use this in the top waterline and maybe a little tiny bit on the bottom lashes, but just a little bit like this. For the primer, I'm going into my Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base. Nothing super trendy about that, but I just really love it, and it's fantastic. It's just a great moisturizer. I have dry, dehydrated skin. I live in Montreal. The weather here tends to not cooperate very nicely with my skin, so this just feels like an extra layer of moisture. A few of you had asked me to provide some audio clips from the event. I'm going to insert them here. The audio is not spectacular, but you'll get the gist.
Elle veut un teint uniforme, lumineux et beau. Alors, si ça c'est vous, passez de l'argent au fond de teint et aux produits de teint aussi. Être préoccupé avec notre teint, c'est quelque chose qui évolue avec nous, parce que plusieurs femmes, pendant et après la grossesse, peuvent faire de la mélasma. On peut aussi aller avec une palette avec des bleus clairs, des bleus foncés, et même des verts sarcelles.
Another thing that I've noticed that is super trendy now, and almost the standard, when it comes to foundations, whether it's a foundation, a tinted moisturizer, CC cream, whatever, everyone, and I mean everyone, is doing some sort of skin hybrid. So instead of it just being makeup, it's infused with skincare. I'm using the U Beauty Super Tinted Hydrator, and this, again, is face makeup with skincare. It's a skin tint, so it's very lightweight. It's not very high coverage, which I like. So I'm just going to put some on the back of my hand here. I'm using the shade, oh my goodness, I'll put it in the description box. Shade 4, shade number 4. So what I do is I'm using the BK Beauty 106. It's the round foundation brush. Just picking this up. So this one here, you have to let it dry on the skin before you add a second layer. But it's very moisturizing. You know, some skin tints are hydrating. This is moisturizing. If you have dry, mature skin, I think you would enjoy it because it feels very nourishing on the skin. And this is really the new, like, it's not even trendy. It's like the new standard. I swear, any brand you can think of, the next time you're at a department store, at a Sephora, even shopping online, click on the different foundations available. And instead of just saying, oh, it's mattifying, it's luminous, it's whatever, they're going to tell you it has this vitamin, this active ingredient. It's really like the new standard. So it is trendy, but it's also just the standard now that face makeup has skincare in it. I'm going to add a little bit more. I did a full pump. I don't know if I actually want a whole pump, but we'll see. I like how luminous this is, but I think I will also add a face powder just because I want a little bit more balance, but this is really lovely. I also love to use this as a primer. So sometimes if I want to do something a bit heavier, I'll use this first as the primer, and then I'll go in with a heavier foundation, and it gives a really beautiful, luminous, moisturized look. Speaking of makeup skincare hybrid, I'm going into my Chanel Sublimage concealer here. So this is a concealer infused with the Sublimage skincare ingredients. I'm using the shade 32. It has a really nice peachy cut to it. So I just realized I forgot to put on mascara. I'll fix that in a second. I'll just let this sit on the skin for a second. Any concealer, I like to just leave it there for a second just to let it marinate with my skin, and I find that it offers a bit more coverage. So I'm going to use my Chantecaille Fossil Longest Lash Mascara in black. This is a mascara that is infused with lash skincare. You know how there's like lash treatments you can apply? Well, this is the mascara mixed with that as well. So there we go with trends. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and apply this. Now I'm going in with my Angie Hot and Flashy A506, this angled concealer brush. I'm just going to blend out the concealer. I find with any concealer, if you just let it sit on the skin for 30 seconds, let it dry down a little bit, it just covers a little bit more. I cleaned off the foundation brush that I just used, and I'm going into this Chanel Universal Loose Powder here. This is the shade 30. I like this look, but I just want to mattify it a little bit, a tiny bit. So I'm going to knock some powder into here. It's actually a bit too much. I'll just tap some here and then knock it off down here and blur it out. I find that it blurs nicely. It mattifies a little, just a tiny bit, and it helps everything stay a little bit longer. I'm going to add a touch of bronzer. I'm using the Refer 04 angled brush. It's perfect for contour or bronzer. And I'm using the Givenchy bronzer here in the shade 3. I don't know why this isn't more hyped up. I absolutely love this bronzer. It's so natural. It isn't like shiny, but it's very luminous. You know how some bronzers just give you that healthy, I just came in from the beach type of look? This bronzer does that. It's so pretty. It makes you look sun-kissed and healthy at the same time. I love it. For the blush, I'm going into my new Guerlain Terracotta blush. This is the shade 01 Light Pink. It's so pretty. I picked this up a few weeks ago. I've used it almost every day. You can tell I love it so much, and I'm using my Chanel blush brush here. I'm just going to swirl in. So this blush is a little bit of a slow build. You do have to dig in a little bit to get payoff. However, it has some sort of adaptive quality. Once you apply it, it is so long wearing. Like this will last, the entire day. Like it could be 9 p.m. and the blush that I'm placing here will be in the exact same spot. Nothing fades, nothing moves. And it reminds me almost of the Dior Backstage blushes. you know, like these ones here that have a sort of like adaptive quality on your cheek. Like these ones sort of mix with your skin, and these ones do as well. But there's just something that it sort of reacts with your skin, and at some point you're just building and building and building, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, there it is. There's the payoff that I've been trying to get, and it just looks so pretty. Oof, I love it. It's one of those products that I picked it up, and since then, since I've purchased it, I've had a hard time using any other blush, which is always a good sign. And speaking of this type of product, I'm going into my Tom Ford Soleil Neige Rose Irisé highlighter. This is so pretty. This was part of the holiday release. I got it in the fall, and I'm using this Sigma tapered highlighter brush. This highlighter is absolutely stunning. So it's a powder, as you can tell, but it really melts into the skin as if it were a liquid or a cream. And I know many of you watching have picked it up and are also in love with it. It's so pretty. I love it. It's slightly cool tone, it has a little bit of pink pearlescence to it, but it's very light, it's very natural, just looks so pretty. And then using the Refer Mini, I'm going to pick up more of this highlighter here, and I'm going to place it on the eyes. I'm going to highlight a little bit of the brow bone, and then a little bit in the inner corner here. For a lip product, I'm going into our last super trendy item here, a lip oil. This is the Guerlain lip oil. You can see how much I love it. This is the shade 309 Honey Nude, Honey Glow. And it used to be a few years ago that the only brand that really did a lip oil was Clarins. Now, literally every single brand you can think of has a lip oil. Like, name a brand, they have a lip oil now. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply this. You could do a lip liner first. I like the look of this on its own. I find that it does have tint. It has a little bit of color to it. And if I just keep reapplying this as the day goes on, it really stains my lips. Now, I have my hair up in a bun, which is perfect for a lip oil because lip oils do love when you have a strand of hair that comes and gets glued in there. So that is a little annoying, but I have this pineapple going on, so I'm good. For my last final touch, I'm going to add my Prada Paradox Eau de Parfum. This is a lovely fragrance. It's feminine, it's fruity, it's floral at the same time. I think there's some grapefruit notes. It's a lovely for not quite spring day. It was really funny when they invited me to talk there for spring summer because some of these days don't really feel like spring summer. Like it's really not quite that nice yet. And I was like the day that I did my talk was like -7 Celsius, and I was like, yay, spring summer trends. But you know, it was the vibe, the inspiration that I hope I infused to my audience. Anyway, this is the finished look. This is what I think is very trendy for the season. And like this blue, it looks blue, but it doesn't really look blue. It's very beautiful, it's very subtle, it's very natural. I, of course, love going into this type of blue and just doing, you know, wall to ceiling, you know, all over the place blue. But if you want to try something a bit more subtle, try a dark navy eyeliner. You could do the pencil like I did, or you could do a bit more adventurous and do a cat eye. It's up to you. If you want to do something a bit blue, but you're kind of scared to do all over blue, or even the winged liner, because it's not for everyone, I would go with try like a classic pencil liner. Go with a blue. You could do a dark navy, or you could do a blue with a little shift of silver or gold, and put that in the waterline. It gives a makeup look. It looks like you're wearing more makeup than you actually are, which is always nice when you look like you put a lot of effort into your look when you didn't. I love that. Anyway, that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.